Welcome back to the Untouchaballs podcast. Caden and Leo here. Caden, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, Max. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well because it's been a very eventful, return from the All-Star break in the association, as you like to say, Caden. So let's go ahead and hop right into this.
Yeah, we're going to get going with the Denver Nuggets, where we talked about last week how this is going to be the toughest stretch of their season coming up. These next 15 games out of the break, where 13 of them are against playoff teams,
Yes.
and they have two kind of easy games in there. Tough road stretch, which actually starts tonight as we were recording this. So it's going to be a tough 4-game road stretch coming up here. But the games the 2 games that they played coming out of the break was home against the Hornets to start, and they did what they were supposed to do. You go out there against a bad team, you win by 14, you do what you need to do against these bad teams, and then you play at home against the Lakers last Saturday night, a team that you have beaten 13 of the last 14 games, including playoffs, and you lay a dud. The Lakers never trailed in this game. The just all around bad from the Nuggets.
Yeah, Caden, and we really got to see kind of a breakout performance from Luka Doncic finally within that Lakers purple and gold. And it was really kind of upsetting because it kind of looked early on like we were containing him. The Nuggets looked all right; they were hanging in there, and then, like you said, just never been able to maintain a lead. And the way that the Lakers are able to perform, kind of disheartening, knowing we still have this big stretch coming up.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Luka, he just doesn't look right in the Lakers jersey. 77 just doesn't fit those jerseys well.
I don't think it's as bad as you make it out.
It doesn't look great, but Luka, yeah, he had his best game as a Laker. Was getting some favorable whistles early on, especially in that first
in
half.
the Mile High City, kid.
Hey, we know the refs love the Lakers, but I mean, then it was just a weird game overall. I mean, Julian Strawther comes in the second quarter, whatever, gets 3 fouls in a minute. He ended up not fouling out, but he was close to setting the record for the fastest time to foul out in NBA history. He had 5 fouls in about a minute 45 of actual on-court time.
Gameplay.
So he did not look good. Russ was just chucking shots in this game, looking bad. But I do have to give credit to JJ Redick and the staff they game planned really well for Jokic in this game. No matter where Jokic was, if he had the ball or not, there was at least 2 guys on him at all times.
That's how you should play.
They were trying to force him to find the open guys, and the open guys weren't making the shots. So when you're double teaming Jokic, he's looked great. I mean, he only attempted 7 shots the entire game. So it's not like you did your part. If you're holding Jokic, I think you only had 11 points. That's what you want to do defensively. You're like, we're going to let the role players try to beat us and not let Jokic take over this game. So they did a really good job about that. We're going to see, because after that, we're going to see probably a lot of other teams try to implement that going forward against us. So we have to see if they can try to break that mold, make it so we don't see what happened on Saturday, have it so if Jokic is finding these open guys, they're making their shots, whether it be Christian Brown, Porter, Jamal, anything like that, they are making their open shots. And when Jokic is actually not getting nothing, if he's attacking the rim and forcing the ball, because he is the best player, he should be taking a lot of shots.
Yeah, Kate, I think you hit the nail on the head there, and that's what they're going to have to see, and that's what they're going to have to expect going in, starting off tonight, and hopefully they can rebound and get things started on the right foot. Now, speaking of trades, Caden, or I guess, do we want to hop into the trade one?
Yeah, we can do that.
We can hop in. Speaking of trades, another one of the very big trade, Jimmy Butler to the Warriors, shaping out pretty nicely so far.
Yeah, so I mean, as the standings sit right now, the Warriors are the 9 seed. So they're in the play-in game, but they're only a game and a half out of getting out of the play-in game. But also they're 3 games of being out of the playoffs. So they're right here on the bubble of either possibly missing it, which I think would be tough for them to do because the Suns are the closest team to them. They're not good. And then it's the Spurs, who we'll get to in a minute, their season just took a drastic turn. But yeah, the Warriors, they're looking not too bad. Since the Jimmy Butler trade, they are 5-1. Their only loss was to the Lakers not to the Lakers. That was before the trade. Was at the Mavericks, which that's not a good loss because that is after AD and everyone had already been out.
Correct, but that was like of the first. Wasn't that the first game they played?
It was the third.
The third, still.
No, I know.
Getting acquainted. I even think still that their best basketball is still ahead of them.
Yeah, I mean, they've only played 6 games. They're still young. They're still seeing how it's going to work with Jimmy and Draymond both on the court at the same time. While the spacing there isn't great, they're two obviously still very good players. And yeah, they've had some good wins in this stretch. Beat the Bucks in Milwaukee. They beat the Rockets in Houston. Yesterday, they were able to avenge, I guess, kind of that loss to the Mavs, beat them by 24. So they're looking good, and they've got some easy games coming up. They've got a very favorable type schedule coming in the next month or so. So to see them, they need to perform well. They need to get Jimmy acclimated, find a way for all of them to work together. And they could be sitting pretty, they could be finding themselves not inside the play and make it so they can actually be locked in for a play, so not have to win a game or two to actually make it into the dance.
And I think that's exactly what the Warriors want to do, kid. I think it benefits them greatly not getting into that play-in, because with the way they kind of be hot and cold, you have a cold game and a play-in, and then all of a sudden, you're in another game trying to compete for your life to stay, just to get into the playoffs. It's more mileage on your already aging players that they don't need another competitive playoff game, that they don't need on their bodies. You want to be able to earn the right to be, a little more relaxed and take those couple days off, because it's going to be very beneficial, especially considering the age of, Curry and Draymond and, even Jimmy Butler and the amount of minutes that they've played this year. Like Steph Curry's played a lot this year, Caden. He's been trying to carry this Warriors team, and they're going to need that adequate rest and hopefully get themselves a more favorable matchup in these coming few weeks.
Well, yeah, for sure. So if, let's say they end up as the 19th season ends, they win their playing game, so they'll end up with the 8th seed. They'd be playing the Thunder, which is not a good matchup for them.
And that's not a good matchup for most teams.
No, not at all. And let's say they were the 8th seed and win that game, so they're the 7th seed come or the playing time. They're playing the Nuggets, which isn't a great matchup for them either. They want to get out of the playing game, play either. It'd be as of right now, it'd be the Grizzlies if they were the 6th seed.
That's a game series you feel like will win.
Yeah, that's definitely a winnable series, because the Grizzlies have been weird this year. Jaw's not been playing great, but Jaren Jackson Jr. has been awesome. They've have just a bunch of role players for playing good. But when you look at that, they're definitely a more inexperienced team when you compare it to this entire Warriors roster, where obviously most of everyone there has been there, done that, at least been to a finals. Now you're adding Jimmy, who has carried a team to 2 separate finals.
Correct.
That you feel much better as a Warriors fan and as the Warriors organization playing a Grizzlies team, or even somehow if the Rockets can get up there or something. So you'll feel a lot better with that. So the Warriors really, especially, they have this easy stretch going on. You need to win most of these games. You need to get rolling. You need to make it so you're not going to be stuck in this play-in. So you're not going to be either playing, whether it be the Nuggets or the Thunder come first round, where it's just not a favorable matchup for you.
Correct. Now, as we kind of hinted out a little bit before this, the last team we kind of want to talk about and hit is the San Antonio Spurs and their superstar, Victor Wembanyama. He's down.
He's out for the year. It was found out during All-Star Weekend. He has a blood clot in his left shoulder. So now he is done for the year, right after things were starting to look up for the Spurs.
And Caden, it comes out, like you said, the worst time. And first and foremost, hopefully he's all right.
Oh, yeah.
Hoping for the care. And, it's hard when you're that long and that big of a person, your heart trying to pump blood and fuel such a big machine. I mean, that's the only explanation you can think of for now as to why he's had this so far. And you're just hoping the best for Wemby. But, Caden, like you said, now the Spurs season is looking like it's going to take a huge dip right at the worst time. And it super sucks for a team you were, optimistic of making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, after the De'Aaron Fox trade, I put in a future on the Spurs to make the playoffs. It was about 4-1. I'm like, I like this. I think Fox and Wemby are going to be an incredible duo. And they looked good together. Oh, yeah, they looked, especially coming to next season, it's going to be awesome to see a full year of them together.
With the whole offseason, too.
Exactly. So, but now, obviously, Wemby's out for the year. They are 24-31. They are 5 games out of even making the play-in. So that's basically over. So right now, it's basically you're going to end up in the lottery. Hopefully, it's very possible now that you could end up with 2 top 10 picks. Because you have the Hawks pick where they are not good. They could possibly end up in the top 10. So you could have the Hawks pick and your own pick, which can end up in the top 10. I think as of right now, the Spurs have a 3% chance. to get the number 1 overall pick in the lottery.
Still a chance.
So, I mean, let's say the Spurs end up with the number 1 overall pick. Cooper Flag,
Oh my
Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, and, I mean, maybe like a Stephon Castle or something at this, while it's obviously awful for the Spurs, this is looking like a very nice draft class coming up. A lot better than, especially the one we saw last year.
More deep for sure.
But definitely more deep. And we got a lot of these good players where it sucks. You guys were going to possibly be making a push, be back in the playoffs. But now it's like you got to try to get a good draft pick. You're not going to be making the playoffs. You're not going to be making any sort of runs. Lose the games you need to lose. Get a good draft pick. And maybe the lottery gods can be nice to you. And you can get a possible generational talent like you just did with Wemby a couple years ago.
In Caden, I think is the most optimistic, best case scenario for the Spurs, all things considered, within the situation. But again, you got to feel for Wemby. You got to feel for the fans. That super sucks. Super way to end the season. You never want to see the best players go out because of injuries, especially scary ones like blood clots.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Wemby too, because I mean, he was by far the odds-on favorite to win DPOY. He was gonna win it in a landslide, probably unanimously. Now he's ineligible because he didn't make his 65 game. It would have been interesting, like before this rule was put in place, it would have been interesting to see what the voters would have done with Wemby playing only about 2/3 of the season. Would you have given it to him? Or, I mean, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is now the new favorite to get his second DPOY award. So it would have been interesting to see how the voters would have went with that. But now,
For sure.
because of the game limit, he's ineligible. Now it looks like we might be seeing Jaren win his second DPOY.
Yeah, that's definitely off the table there. And like you said, it's kind of looking now like Jaren Jackson does get another one, Caden, which is unfortunate for Wemby, but hopefully he still has a long career ahead of him where he has plenty of Defense Player of the Years in his future.
Oh, as long as Wemby's playing, it seems like he's going to have a plentiful of DPOYs in his future.
Right.
He was averaging just shy of 4 blocks a game this year, which was leading the league by far, was getting some steals. He's just an otherworldly type player.
Right.
7'4", can drain logo threes with these. Like,
ridiculous.
Heal up, Wemby, because you are good for the game of basketball.
Most definitely. Well, that's all we had on the agenda for today. We thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all next time.